How are the Ravens going to beat the Bengals? Let's talk about it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTB Ravens Media, bringing you Ravens content every single day. If you want to see that daily Ravens content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Hit the notification bell as well. If you want to get notified every single time I upload a brand new video. Now, in this video today, I'm talking about the Ravens strategy and how they can take down the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm not going to be talking very much about injuries. I talked about that yesterday. I'm just going to be talking more strategy and game plan. Obviously, I will be discussing, game plan without certain players, but not trying to, push blame or anything like that on not having, certain players. So, obviously the Bengals lost last week against the Cleveland Browns. What's the biggest thing that the Browns did in that game? They got pressure. They were really good in one-on-one situations against the wide receivers. So first off, let's talk about the offensive side of the ball for the Baltimore Ravens. What do they need to do against the Cincinnati Bengals defense? I think the biggest thing is that the Bengals have lost some key pieces on that defense. They've lost their cornerback one, arguable cornerback one, I guess we can say. But then they also lost Jesse Bates. And Jesse Bates was a key part of this defense the last couple of seasons, and now he's thriving in Atlanta. He had 2 picks, I believe, in week 1 against Bryce Young. He made him look really silly, breaking back on a couple of routes, getting 2 interceptions. But overall, the Ravens passing the ball should have an easier time than in recent years trying to pass the ball on the Cincinnati Bengals defense, because I think the secondary is a little bit worse. So when you're going after this Cincinnati Bengals secondary, what do you need to do? First off, you got to get the ball out a little bit quickly. The Bengals are going to try and bring pressure. They're going to try and get you sacks. We don't want Lamar Jackson sitting there in the pocket waiting all day to, potentially get sacked and cause turnovers and things of that nature. So I think this game is really going to boil down to Lamar Jackson getting the ball out quickly. You're missing your left tackle. You're missing your center. How do you respond to that? You don't want pressure? Okay, get the ball out quick, right? Tom Brady, 3-step drop, hit your guy, okay? That's going to lead to a lot of screens. That's going to lead to a lot of underneath passing routes. And I'm fine with that because the Ravens have players that can, be very good after the catch. The other thing I think is that the Cincinnati Bengals, they don't have a top-tier cornerback, okay? I'm not trying to disrespect any of their cornerbacks by any means, but when you don't have a top-tier cornerback, that means in one-on-one situations, you can let your guys make a play, all right? And you have Odell Beckham Jr., and his specialty is jump balls. I think the Ravens should get him involved more this game with one-on-one opportunities down the sideline, with, fades. I'm not saying throw it 60 yards down the field. I'm saying throwing it, 15, 20-yard back shoulder fades, which the Cincinnati Bengals, if you watched their game against the Browns at all last week, that's what they were trying to do against the Cleveland Browns, except they were going up against very good cornerbacks and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. T. Higgins had 0 receptions on over 8 targets. I think it was 9, but I know he had over 8. He got no receptions. They kept trying to throw to him, jump balls down the sideline. Browns kept stopping it. Well, the Bengals don't really have the cornerbacks that are maybe going to be able to stop an Odell Beckham Jr., back shoulder fade on, a second and 2, right? A second and 1. That's when you start giving those players those opportunities. Hard play action, throw it up to your guy. I think that could be very beneficial this game. We didn't see it a lot last week. We did see Lamar throw the deep route to Odell Beckham Jr. late in the game. He did have that reception. Odell tracked the ball very well, but I think that's going to be a key piece of the game. Obviously, running the football, always important to the Ravens offense. I think it's just going to be keep the Bengals on their toes, okay? Because they don't know which running back's going to be RB1. They've obviously faced they faced Gus Edwards plenty of times in their, last 3-4 seasons, but they haven't faced a lot of Justice Hill. Most teams haven't. So get Justice Hill involved in the passing game. Get Gus Edwards involved in the passing game. Use them interchangeably. Don't give it, the whole game to one player. And I think that's the expectation. I honestly wouldn't use Melvin Gordon very much in this game. Knock on wood, unless there's some sort of injury. Knock on wood again, to the running back position. So I would say just, hammer your 2 running backs, but really throw the ball a lot in this game, but not risky, all right? Quick checkdowns underneath, screens, maintain possession, but keep the ball moving forward. We don't want the ball sitting in Lamar Jackson's hands in the pocket against this Bengals pass rush with a diminished Ravens offensive line. That's the keys on offense, in my opinion. Going over to the defensive side of the ball, you're obviously facing one of the best offensive teams in the NFL, one of the best skill position groups, if not the best skill position group in the NFL. Ja'Marr Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, probably the best wide receiver trio. Tight end, lackluster, Irv Smith Jr. Running back, obviously Joe Mixon, solid running back. And then Joe Burrow, top 5 quarterback in the NFL. That's very good. You're facing an okay offensive line. They've been helping it out the last couple of years, getting it a little bit better each and every year. They signed Orlando Brown Jr. He didn't do much against Myles Garrett, but let's be honest, who does much against Myles Garrett? So, I think defensively we can't look at this and just say, oh, the Bengals, they got stifled last week. We can do that. That's not going to happen. Yes, the Ravens defense could play very well. I expect them to play okay against the Bengals. They've done pretty solid against them the last couple of times they've faced them, which was 2 of their last 3 games were against the Bengals, and they played very well against them. But I think one of the biggest things is stay composed. Right? We don't have Marlon Humphrey, so it's probably going to be Brandon Stevens on the outside against either T. Higgins or Ja'Marr Chase. I think the Ravens just got to have 2 deep safeties. And if the Bengals are going to beat the Ravens, I don't know. I feel like you got to make them beat you slowly. You don't want the big 60-yard touchdowns to come after you. And yes, if you do start sending more pressure and reducing that coverage over top, that can allow you to get more pressure, can allow you to get more sacks, and maybe force some turnovers or force some 4th downs that force the Bengals into punting. But I think don't rely on that. I think overall this defense is really good against the run. You have to use that very well. But Joe Burrow is going to come into this game, I feel like, and want to get some, not revenge, but stick it to the NFL that last week was not the norm. I'm still a legit quarterback in the NFL. Ja'Marr Chase is still a top receiver in the NFL. Do not forget about us when you're talking about the best teams, not just in the AFC North, not just in the AFC, but in the NFL. The Bengals are a very good team. Okay, we can't go into this game thinking, oh, they lost big last week. They're not very good. The Bengals are a team to beat in the AFC and in the NFL. So, on defense, you just got to make sure that you're staying close to your guy and not allow the big play. Because you know what? They're going to convert difficult 3rd downs. They're going to convert, on 2nd and 2. The trick is don't let them consistently convert on those difficult downs. The Ravens have had troubles against certain teams, not necessarily the Bengals, but getting them off the field on 3rd and long. They have struggled with that. You can't let that happen against the Bengals because they have Ja'Marr Chase and they have T. Higgins. They can always throw up a jump ball to one of those guys and have a decent shot at coming down with it. So, this is a really good football team. You got to play them hard, but I think stop the run, don't allow the big play is the 2 things that I'm focusing on the defense. Not as much about getting sacks. Obviously, getting sacks will always help you, but if you're sacrificing getting sacks for coverage down the field, I would rather have that coverage down the field because, we do want to see what this Ravens defense can do in a 4-man pass rush against, a better offensive line than they faced last week. How can Jadeveon Clowney step up? How can Odafe Oweh? How can our other guy, David Ojabo, I don't know why I was blanking on his name. How can David Ojabo play against the Cincinnati Bengals? We already has a strip sack on Burrow that he got last year. I can't remember if it was the playoff game or the final regular season game. It's tough when you play them back to back, figuring out which one was which. But this is an AFC North game. It's going to be brutal. It's going to be hard fought. The team with the least amount of mistakes is probably going to win this game. Ravens, keep it safe. Don't allow the big play. Thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe for today Ravens content. And I'll see all of you again tomorrow with the pregame stream. I don't know if it'll be starting at noon or about 12:30, probably somewhere in between, but make sure to come through then.